Hey, what's up everyone? JJ here and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to look at the LEGO Harry Potter 2024 and 2025 Hogwarts Castle system. We're going to look at the various sets and talk about pretty much how they connect and interact within this system. Obviously, for June of 2025, we have two expansions, the largest, of course, here being the main tower, but we also got the Herbology classroom. And then earlier in the year, we got the flying lesson as well as the dueling club that kind of goes inside of the Great Hall. So one of the big things people are asking about is how the Great Hall and the main tower connects, and we'll look at some of those connection points. And I'm also getting a lot of questions about how the flying lesson interacts and connects to both the Great Hall and the main tower. And while there are some connection points, I don't think the expectation is for this set to connect directly to the tower. And we, of course, still have the Owlry, which kind of is a standalone build, and it seems to still be that way within this Hogwarts Castle system. So let's jump right in now. We will take a look at the connection points and how some of these sets, especially the classrooms, interact and are interchangeable within the system. So let's jump right in and take a look now. All right, so looking at all of these sets, there are many different sets that came out between 2024 and 2025 that connect or interact in some way with this Hogwarts Castle system. We're first going to focus on the exterior portions of the castle, so the Great Hall, the main tower, the Owlry, the greenhouse, as well as the flying lesson and boathouse, because those actually connect, or most of them connect in some way. And after that, we're going to take a look at some of the sets that interact by either can be interchanged within parts of the build, or like the Dueling Club, they can be added to the Great Hall. We will also look at the 2024 Advent Calendar at the end of the video, as that was marketed as a set that could also interact with the Great Hall, but that was a very, in my opinion, weak interaction. But let's take a look now at the connection points with the exterior portions of this Hogwarts Castle system. And here we can see the most obvious connection point from 2024 is between the Great Hall and the boathouse. Here we can see, of course, the boathouse. On the front, it's a great little build. But then when you look at the back, it does have these two kind of clip pieces, and that connects directly to the stairs kind of coming here at the bottom of the Great Hall. And of course, here you can see these two kind of just clip right in, and that is a most obvious connection point. I don't know if I would display the Great Hall without the boathouse. I think it really kind of completes the front of the Hogwarts. Now, the next major connection point we're going to look at is between the Great Hall and the main tower, and there's quite a bit of variability there. And here you can kind of see what I mean. The Great Hall has kind of these four clip pieces spread out along the back here. And then kind of looking here at the kind of the front left of the main tower is where we can see kind of the one connection point here for that. Similarly, the back of the main tower is also going to have these two connection points that are similar to the Great Hall. But like I said, we saw that one connection point on the front. Now, when I display these sets on my shelf, I connect the Great Hall here to this second clip. And here you see the set just clips together, similar to the boathouse and the stairs. And here you can see from the top, if you look at the walkway around the main tower, that kind of connects here inside the Great Hall. I don't love that that rounded piece on the main tower isn't finished off with any type of railing, but that's kind of what you get when you connect it here at this point. And here you can see this is the angle the Great Hall and the main tower kind of creates when you connect it there at that point. Now, when looking at the connection point between the Great Hall and the main tower, from the instruction booklet from the back, as you can see, you do connect the main tower to the third stud over, or the second if you're coming from the courtyard, because you can see two exposed here. However, I've seen people display it on both the second and the third, so either of those two middle ones. So we're going to take a look at each of those just to see what it looks like and kind of the angle it creates from the Great Hall to the main tower, and what future sets are kind of connect to the main tower. And here you can see what that looks like from the top, where it kind of connects there into the middle of the Great Hall. And this angle does a really good job kind of recreating what we see with the Hogwarts Castle layout, especially when you compare to that 2018 microscale version. My only problem with it is it creates such a depth when you measure kind of from the back there of the main tower all the way to the front here of the boathouse, and it just really doesn't fit on any of my shelves. So that's why I have to angle the Great Hall a little bit more at that second connection point, although I'm curious to see when we have additional Hogwarts castles if that's going to affect the way I choose to lay it out on my shelf. And here you can kind of see what I mean. So here is the back of the main tower. And if we want to display this on a shelf, we obviously have to come all the way up, all the way to the front of the boathouse. And that is just a lot of ground to cover. And I did a very rudimentary measurement. It's about 2.5 base plates, which is about 80 studs, which is kind of huge. So while I really like this connection point and the angle that it creates, for me, I use kind of that second connection point like I showed earlier. This saves me about 16 studs in depth, so it's a lot easier to arrange on my corner bookshelf back there. All right, so the next three exterior castle sets that we have for this Hogwarts castle system is the greenhouse, Herbology classroom, the owlery, and then the flying lesson. Starting off with the smallest Herbology class, here on the back, we don't really see any connection points. And that's gonna be true for both the left and the right side of the build here. And while I don't think there are any connection points here, potentially, maybe they're gonna have you try and connect the greenhouse by use of this plant piece. However, that seems like an odd choice. In here, I just kind of zoomed in as well. There are these kind of interesting connection points, but some of these I added on afterwards. They're just like extra leftover pieces to create more plants. So I don't think that was any intention from the designers to be a connection point to the Hogwarts castle system. Once the castle is complete, I kind of just think they'll put this greenhouse somewhere just in front of one of the structures in their images. So it's not really connecting to the Hogwarts castle system. However, it could be displayed next to or in addition to the Hogwarts castle system. And that's supported here by the instruction booklet as well, where if you look, it shows the greenhouse just kind of hanging out there in front of the castle, which is all that I think this set's ever going to do in terms of the connection to the system itself. And this is something that's also true for the owlery. This set definitely appears to be a standalone building. Here you can see on the front, there are not any connection points. And also kind of on the back here, this kind of little cave. The closest thing to a connection point would be if a clip connected to this tree. As you can see, it kind of shows the tree is already being held up by a clip piece. So I am curious about that. And so, of course, looking here at the interior as well, we don't see any additional clip pieces that are different from kind of that one on the edge here that was holding that tree. And this brings us to the flying lesson set, which I do think is the most complicated of the three, because this set actually has quite a few connection points. First, it has this kind of exposed stud piece. However, we already know this connects to the back of its own set because you kind of fold it in on itself. As you can see, the front portion of the flying lesson is on hinges, so you can make it a line, you can curve one, two of the pieces. And of course, you can fully, like I said, close it in on itself so that it's pretty sturdy and the three different walls there are held in place. However, you may have noticed there is a clip piece here above the Quidditch kind of storage room. And there is a second, well, two actually additional clip pieces here on the side. And if you notice, the height of those matches some of the other connection points we see with the other larger Hogwarts castle sets. Specifically looking back here at the main tower, of course we see one connection piece here, but there's nothing there at the bottom. This is actually different on the left side near the Devil's Snare, where we have a connection point both at the top as well at the bottom of that room. And in terms of height, the flying lesson and the Devil's Snare main tower set actually connects perfectly, but it creates a really odd angle. You can't really have it come forward any more than this because of how that connection point is created. So this would kind of be towards the back side of the main tower. However, you could kind of have it fold in a little bit if you wanted to create something like this. It wouldn't make any sense for displayability as it would be completely hidden behind the open back wall of the main tower. So your best bet really would be something like this at an odd angle. However, again, looking here at the instruction booklet, it shows the flying lesson tower kind of off to the side, not connected to the castle. And while I know people are really excited to see how the current Hogwarts castle system sets fit together, I do think this connection point is actually going to be for the next set that connects to the kind of Great Hall main tower. I expect it to either be the bridge or the viaduct, maybe the Chamber of Secrets, but I don't expect it. I don't think it's supposed to, at this point, connect here to the flying lesson set. And again, I want to point out, even though I don't think this is the expected connection point, there is another exposed connection point here on the side of the Great Hall, and there isn't a connection point on the bottom, but there's kind of some clearance there if you wanted to connect your flying lesson here. However, similarly to connecting it to the main tower, it just creates a really odd angle that doesn't make any sense for either playing or for displaying. So like I said, at this point, we have quite a few buildings. They can be displayed near and around the Hogwarts castle, but don't actually connect. And the connection points have been pretty weak in general, so even just placing one of these builds next to the main tower in the Great Hall, I think is enough of a display component. I personally don't need it to actually connect, as long as it looks good kind of on display near the castle. And let's take some time now and look at the interior of these various castle builds. And we can see some of these smaller sets, such as the Charms class, Potions classroom, and the Dueling club, and see how they can interact and, kind of be incorporated into this Hogwarts castle system. Alrighty, now that we're looking at the interior of the builds, I've obviously moved the display off the table into the light box. This will obviously give us a little bit better lighting inside some of these little coves that are kind of hidden underneath of these tower builds. If you're returning to my channel, let me know if you want me to do more filming kind of on the table, not just in the light box. I know people have requested a room tour, and I promise it's coming. The room is great if you look at it from certain angles, but there's a mess everywhere. Some of my shelves have like little minifigures just haphazardly kind of there. So I'm working on it, but let's take a look at the interior interchangeable rooms of the new Hogwarts castle. We're first going to look at the Dueling club. This is quite different than all the other interchangeable rooms. This is a really fun little set. Probably my favorite from the June wave, actually. I do think I like it more than the Charms class. It's very simple. It's a cool play feature. They improved upon the 2002 version, but this is listed as interacting with the Hogwarts castle. And of course, here we can see the instruction booklet has the Dueling club, and it shows you it goes here in the Great Hall. And pretty much how this works is you just take a look at the Great Hall here and you remove everything in the interior. So of course now it's just an empty room. And there you can place the Dueling club set. I actually like this a little bit different than the traditional chairs and tables, just because we get that a ton with the Great Hall. I do wish this build somehow flipped down so it can kind of be off to the side and then flip up over the tables. But it's fine, just kind of place it here as well. It does look good as a display piece here if you're looking at the interior. Now, for the remainder of the sets, we're going to start off here looking at the Charms and the Potions class. And the reason why is because, as you can see, these are two different sizes. Of course, the Potions class is just about double the size here of the Charms class. And these represent currently the two footprints of the interchangeable kind of classrooms or just rooms in general for this Hogwarts castle system. Here underneath the Great Hall, we can see the girls' bathroom as well as the Hufflepuff common room. And then here underneath the main tower, we can see the chess room, the wizard's chess. As you can see, each of these four builds have kind of the same footprint, like I said earlier, and you can slide them in and out of those three different locations underneath the Great Hall and the main tower. In here, you can see the Great Hall, what it looks like when those rooms are removed. There actually is some pretty decent detailing there for the walls, which is important because if you take a look at the actual builds, the walls aren't too built up. And that is also very true for the bottom of the main tower where we see the chess set going as well. And this doesn't have any walls at all. It's literally just the wizard's chess. And of course, the Potions class is the standout set. And that's because this was a standalone set that you had to purchase to add to your castle system. And it does a great job kind of folding up and opening out, really revealing a lot of great details here for the Potions class. Here you can see the Herbology classroom and the Potions class are very similar sizing. When this was first leaked as a set, I actually thought it would be like the Potions classroom where you were able to kind of slide it underneath here. But what I was expecting was kind of an external kind of greenhouse build and then a much smaller, less detailed insert, similar like the Hufflepuff common room or the girls' bathroom, where you can slide it out of the greenhouse. So you'd have like an empty greenhouse and then kind of this additional Herbology class that you could slide back into the greenhouse or into one of the other three locations on the Great Hall or the main tower. Obviously, we didn't get that. I'm not happy with the greenhouse the way it is. It would have felt a little more connected to this Hogwarts castle system if you were able to kind of take it out and move it around the castle, however. And one thing that's really great about the Potions classroom, I'm sliding underneath the main tower, is you are able to kind of open it up and you can still view the classroom even when it's fully underneath the main tower. I had to use both hands to push it in because there are those two Technic connection points in the back that require a little bit more force so it stays. But it's cool that you can see the window as well as the door, and then you can very easily kind of open it up. And if you wanted to play or view this while it's inside, you can do so. And of course, since we can move some buildings around, we can put the wizard's chess here. underneath the Great Hall, kind of next to this random, useless portrait gallery is what I've turned it into. What's funny about this is there is kind of an escape hatch here at the back for Professor Quirrell. So this would actually be a really cool place if you wanted to set up your Mirror of Erised and kind of go back to the main tower and customize above Dumbledore's office something else different from the Mirror of Erised. And here I've moved the Hufflepuff Common Room to the left side of the Great Hall. So really cool, fun, and easy ways to customize your Hogwarts castle without really having to do any building. I think it was smart that they left the walls kind of low and built the wall detailing actually underneath the castles themselves, because these sets pretty much feel complete. I mean, even the Wizard's Chest, you don't really need a wall there. And then I like how the Standalone Potions classroom had the walls built in. And while the chess set doesn't open up, we can see that you're able to kind of, because of the hinge pieces, you can make the Hufflepuff Common Room or the girls' bathroom a little bit larger if you're playing with them. Which, as a kid, I would have enjoyed because you could use this kind of interior space to put figures or kind of additional action scenes you were kind of creating for this set. And just because I mentioned Quirrell's escape hatch earlier and it didn't really open, it opens up kind of like here at the back. And here's where you can see what I mean underneath the Great Hall. It just kind of creates an opening. This could be the way he sneaks the troll perhaps into the dungeon. But overall, it is just kind of a fun little detail as well. Next up, we will see rooms that are interchangeable that follow the footprint that is a smaller footprint here, similar to the Charms class. Underneath the Great Hall, of course, we get this portrait gallery. Underneath the main tower, we have the Room of Winged Keys. And here for the flying lesson set, we have kind of the Quidditch supply storage area, as well as the Transfiguration classroom. And as you can see, when these are pulled out, they are very bare boned. There's pretty much no detailing at all. I think it's really unfortunate. I wish they had given us more detailing, especially with the flying lessons. I mean, really all of them. I didn't even really know what to do with this originally. Of course, this is where I'm displaying my additional wizard portraits, but that's where the 4 of them went. The only one that really does anything for me is the Charms class. And again, that's because just like this Potions class of a larger size, it is a standalone set that you have to buy individually and kind of opens up and you can display the Charms class with some fun play features. So this is by far the best one. Even though the other sets don't have walls, they certainly could include additional detailing like we see here with the Charms class. Here I have placed the Charms class underneath the main tower, and as you can see, just like the Potions class, you have the door on the outside, and you can open it up and kind of reveal a pretty cramped classroom there, but it does work. You still have Professor Flitwick and then the 2 students there sitting at their desk. So I am happy that they've included this, and it's of the 5 of this size, definitely the best. And while I would love to call the portrait gallery the worst because I didn't even know what it was, I actually think that goes to the Transfiguration classroom because there's so much they could have done, right? Like with the portrait gallery, it's just a hallway. Okay, that's kind of lame. But I want a Transfiguration classroom in my Hogwarts. And if this is it, I'm really going to have to update it a lot with a lot of details. Similar to the larger room, here we can see kind of how it opens up, and the one play feature this has is kind of, I guess, transfiguring this parrot into a cup. And I'm guessing those are supposed to be student chairs and benches here. The Quidditch supplies does not open up because of the build, so this is just all you get. But we are able to open up both the Room of Winged Keys as well as this portrait gallery hallway. While the Room of Winged Keys was wildly disappointing to me, as it was one of my favorite sets from the original 2001 Harry Potter wave, one thing they did really well is you can put Harry here on the broom and he can, in theory, chase around the keys. So that was kind of fun. I did like that. I don't know. I needed the keys to be winged, I guess. While I do really like the interchangeability of this set and parts of the set, I won't be changing anything here in the main tower. I like that the fluffy room leads to the Devil's Snare, which leads into the Room of Winged Keys, and then into the Wizarding Chest. So I'll be keeping these 3, well, I guess these 2. The Devil's Snare, even though it's on the base floor here, it doesn't come out, which makes sense because the trapdoor leads into it and there's a play feature attached to the wall. So I will not be changing these in my Hogwarts display. I initially thought perhaps the Gryffindor common room would also kind of come out this way. I thought it would kind of be sideways like this, and then in the castle be able to come out like that. But clearly you can see they did not do that. The Gryffindor common room is a stationary part of the Hogwarts castle. Similarly for me to the main tower, the flying lesson set here with this Quidditch tower, I think it makes sense to keep the Quidditch supplies as well as the Transfiguration classroom. For me, this is just the most fitting area of the Hogwarts castle for both of these areas. And while I saw original discussions with the Flying Lessons Tower that that was actually her Professor McGonagall's office and not a classroom. I think this is her office, and so I do think that other build is designed to be a classroom for Transfiguration. I don't think we're going to be getting that again in this Hogwarts Castle system. So that really only leaves the Charms class, and I do display this underneath my Great Hall. In fact, I display it underneath the Great Hall next to the Potions classroom. So this is where I put both the Potions classroom and the Charms class. I think it works having the classrooms next to each other with the bathroom nearby. My only real complaint with this design is by having the Potions and Charms class as separate sets, I now have an orphaned Hufflepuff common room and random hallway with portraits that can't really fit anywhere into my Hogwarts castle. So I don't know if that's an issue they're going to rectify in the future where they're going to design a set that has an empty corridor or area. I don't think so. That wouldn't really make sense to me. But it is a little, I don't know, frustrating is the right word, or just feels like lack of planning to have kind of these leftover rooms that I can't put into my Hogwarts Castle display. The 2024 Harry Potter Advent Calendar from last year actually said it was compatible with set 76435, which is the Great Hall. And they used the word compatible very, very loosely. Essentially, what you could do is similar to the Dueling Club. You could remove the tables and just put all the random things from this calendar throughout this room. I guess you can try and keep the tables. The problem is nothing really fits. This set came with multiple Christmas trees, statues for the 4 houses, these little stands with the house crests, random background holiday decorations, and a table for each of the 4 houses as well, kind of themed with, various holiday goodies and such on top. All this to say, all it really did was kind of crowd the Great Hall and didn't really do anything in terms of displayability or playability. What I'm curious about is once this whole Hogwarts Castle system is finished, if we can kind of display all these small little builds just around the entirety of Hogwarts so it doesn't feel cramped here in the Great Hall. Let me know what you think of the current LEGO Harry Potter Hogwarts Castle system. It's definitely the most detailed, and it seems to be following a very similar build as the 2018 Microscale Castle. For me, I kind of like all the different components that we see kind of with the Great Hall and the main tower, and I really hope they kind of continue it with future sets. But let me know what additional parts of the Hogwarts Castle you really hope are included, and what interior builds you want to see also. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to stay updated with LEGO leaks, rumors, news, and reviews, hit the subscribe button down below. But let me know what you think of this current, the newest Hogwarts Castle system. How do you like the build so far? What additional expansions do you expect to see either from the instruction booklet or just sets that you're hoping for them to include within this wave? I will see you all next time. Thank you so much.